Hey everybody, welcome back to the Functional Times. Michael Cornett here with the CEO of the Bonefrog Challenge, Brian Carney. I appreciate you, sir, coming on today to talk with us. Excited to have you. And we just kind of want to talk about the background of Bonefrog, what's a little bit different, what does the rest of the season look like, and some other things. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you. I appreciate being on and happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking, you got a nice looking home there in the background. If you don't mind, where are you located?
I'm in Western Massachusetts.
Okay.
This is, I won't show you too much around because there's kids' toys everywhere, and with everyone being home now for COVID, and no one's had a break from being home for months now. The place looks like a wreck, but we do our best every night. Just kind of pick back up, and then first thing in the morning, it just looks just like a bomb went off in here, but it's the way it goes.
Yeah. It's the same way at our house. We were talking before we went live, everybody. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and Brian was telling me you have a 4-year-old little girl and a 6-year-old boy.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm assuming, like everybody else, kids have been out of school since March or somewhere around there.
Yeah, no different here. It's all been, they go to public schools and whatnot, and they've been out ever since it started. And my wife, she's teleworking from home, so everyone's in the house. They haven't been going anywhere, just kind of hunkering down. And we're in Massachusetts, so we just started phase 3 of the reopening July 6th. And I know everyone's in different parts of the country and different parts of the world and everything, but up here it's because we're so rural, we're way far away from the city, about 2 hours away from Boston type thing, 2 hours from New York City. We're closer to the Vermont border than anything else. There's not a lot of cases out here, but regardless, they treat it just like the same. Everyone's being safe and masking up and doing their part. So
in Alabama, that's where I am. Our governor just announced a mask order, so now statewide you're required to wear a mask anywhere in public, and there's some little details about it, but some people are happy about it. It's like, good, finally it's about time that we did this, and other people are like, you can't take away my freedom, I'm not wearing a mask. Right. We'll see how it plays out, but regardless, for now, that's what it is.
I get both arguments of it type thing, and I don't blame people for what way they think one way or another. It's just kind of like, we don't really have a choice right now. If it comes out, and that's what we have to do. So you got
do. And that's where I stand. So I have a small business, and look, I say we're supposed to help enforce it. So we put a sign up today that says, you got to wear a mask to come in.
Yeah.
The rules are what they are. So we'll get back around a little bit to the virus. But you also mentioned Bonefrog is different in one way, we know, because it's designed around Navy SEAL obstacles. And before we went live here, you were telling me you were a Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that. What was the transition from Navy SEAL to CEO of an obstacle course race?
Well, I mean, I went into the Navy in 2000, straight out of high school. So no business background, obviously, no college preparation for something like that. But when I went into the military, had a successful career in that, and I got out in 2013. And when I was getting out, it was a scary thing to consider because, prior to the military, all I had was living at home and being in high school and whatnot, and then going straight in the military, and that's, the world as I knew it type thing. So getting out and leaving the military for the outside world is kind of jarring. But I came up with, starting Bonefrog, a Navy SEAL obstacle course race, because it still felt like having one foot in the community. An obstacle course is kind of a, backbone of the military type thing. Everyone even in the Navy, trains on obstacle courses. Of course, SEALs do that. But starting a business that had some, familiarity to it is what kind of really got me going. It scared the life out of me to think of, what if I had to get out and become a banker or something like that, or just go sit in an office or a cubicle all the time. It just wasn't for me. So anyways, that's where we kind of started it from. And when you start a business like this, you don't know. Just kind of every day, just kind of coming in and figuring out things more and more. Now, I don't know how many years later, like 8 years later, kind of almost wish I can go back to the 2013 and give them all that knowledge that I have now. But it's been a roller coaster. It's been great. I absolutely love Bonefrog and what it stands for, the race we put on, the community we've built, the people we've met, and continuously see at our races. That's exactly what makes me keep on doing it year after year.
So you mentioned, the big influence of obstacles and obstacle in the Navy with Navy SEALs. How much of the actual obstacles would you actually see if you were going through some kind of basic training or any kind of training, I guess, for that matter, within the Navy?
Well, I mean, there's so many different jobs in the Navy, in the military. I mean, people would be blown away by how many different jobs there are, but there's hundreds of different jobs just in the Navy alone. And only a few of those are going to, require training on the obstacle courses and things like that. But when I was in the SEAL teams, and more predominantly, I'd say SEAL training, we did the obstacle course every single week for about 9 months.
What kind of obstacles did y'all do? Like, give me a couple of examples if you don't mind.
I mean, I think your standard ones. So cargo nets, monkey bars, traverse walls, low crawls, rope climbs, rope transfers, things like that. And then there's obstacle courses on pretty much every military base that I know of. Even if people on the base don't even know where they are, they're there. And when we trained on them in the SEAL teams, on our own base and bases that I was on, we would do them, and they're all, general, they have a lot of similarities to them, to walls and ropes and those kind of things. But then we'd go overseas and train with partner forces in different countries, and they have also courses too. So when I started Bonefrog, it was like, I'm not just going to create this strictly off of, say, like the Navy SEAL obstacle course that the SEALs train on out in San Diego, but bring in obstacles that I've seen from all the different bases I've been on in the U.S., but also bases in other countries, because there's some cool stuff out there, and just trying to cherry pick from those experiences.
So then I'm curious, when you're actually active duty, how much do some of those obstacles translate to real life, like on the job? I mean, obviously, if you're rappelling from a building or from a helicopter, the rope, I guess, I don't know about a rope climb, but at least descending down the rope, some of these things I could see, but did it directly translate?
Absolutely. But probably not in the way you're thinking.
Okay.
Because as a SEAL, we're carrying about 100 pounds of gear. So you have obviously guns and your ballistic plates, ammo, kit, grenades, just you name it, helmet, and all those different things really affect, your mobility in different settings, and specifically urban settings. So these obstacles they weren't necessarily being like, as you in your gym shorts and tennis shoes, can you get over this wall? Like, yeah, anyone can do that type thing. But now put on all this gear and be running around and be doing all stuff and going Mach 1, and you're sweating, huffing, can barely breathe. And then it's like, now go over this wall, now climb this rope, now do this, go climb, low crawl, climb up the side of the building, go down a pipe. And then you really start getting a feel for all your gear on you type stuff. Because that can be detrimental, especially in a combat zone. SEALs are known for, getting into tight places, being kind of quiet, like little ninjas at it type stuff. If your gear's banging off everything, if you're falling down, if it's just basically look like a soup sandwich trying to go through a city, you're not going to be sticking around too long. But anyways, the point of the matter is that's really what the obstacles did, is, trained you to be mobile with all the stuff you have, and kind of fluid in the way you do it.
So did it ever cross your mind, or has it crossed your mind, to maybe add some kind of weight component to the Bonefrog Challenge? We've
talked about it a few times, specifically like weight vests and whatnot.
Yeah.
And there's the challenge for us is, we're not one of the larger companies out there. I'd say we're, generally mid-sized type thing. But say we have, 1,500 people at a race. How can we possibly get enough of those vests to not incur a ton of backups? So that's probably our issue number one, the most glaring. And the second one is the safety wise of it. You have people climb up ropes, you have people go over cargo nets, you have people dangling from monkey bars and whatnot. If they fall off those, from what I've seen, a lot of people are they're like cats. Like they fall perfectly on their feet. They don't really get hurt. If they do fall, they roll out of it. And injuries are generally small at our races. You add in these components like a weight vest that completely throws you off from from the way people train and stuff like that, or just they know their own body, and now you're adding in different injuries. And it's just something that we haven't been comfortable with yet, and I don't think we figured out a way to do it that I'm completely comfortable and feel safe about doing. So until that happens, it won't show up at our race just yet.
Okay. Yeah, just a thought as you were talking about having all that equipment on, it could make for a cool extra challenge or something.
Yeah, I mean, if we were going to do something like that, because you kind of almost got my thinking now type thing of how can we do something like that. I think it would all have to be generally small things, like a low crawl under wire, a 4 foot or a 5 foot wall going over, things like that. We have one of our more notable obstacles is our Black Ops obstacle, where it's monkey bars hanging 28 feet in the air, and they're over a big safety net. I'm of course go straight to that. Like, imagine if someone's over that and all this gear and they fell, what that would do and what that would look like. And even if they didn't get hurt in the fall, probably the things hanging off of them will whip them in the face. And that's where I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I think it's doable, just on a lot smaller scale.
But aren't the waivers and all that are signed, aren't they pretty Loctite as far as injuries and things?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say they are. But at the same time, I guess like the wanton disregard for people's safety. And if you add in all this stuff, there's no training, you can't tell someone to go home and strap a gun to yourself and jump around and do all this stuff. So, they just show up and be blindsided by that. But you can tell people to get ready for a Bonefrog, like work on upper body strength, push-ups, pull-ups, things like that, rope climbs, and then they can show up and they can really succeed in an event like ours. But I don't know what we would even do to tell them to train for something that was so far off.
Buy a weight vest. Yeah, start training with a weight vest at home. I mean, look, these days, especially during this quarantine, I've seen more people running around on selfie videos and things like that with weight vests on, because maybe they didn't have a barbell or they don't have a rope or a rig or whatever it may be. So they throw on a weight vest and go for a jog, or they do lunges or push-ups or whatever. I think it's becoming more and more of like a common home equipment item.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got a couple of them down my basement myself.
There you go.
And so, I mean, I don't think that people don't necessarily have them, but something to think about, for the future.
Sure. All right. So let's talk about the present. You have a obstacle race for almost 8 years, you said, and then you have a nice full year of racing planned out, and boom, the virus hits, and you guys are pretty much told no go, no go, no go. How do you handle that mentally as a CEO? What was your mindset? Were you at first thinking short term, or did you just start preparing for the long term right from the get go?
No, short term, small bites. And I hate to, it almost sounds cheesy, but to kind of go back to my military training and whatnot, it was just learning to be adaptable to things and constant change and whatnot. And it wasn't anything different when COVID came along. Like, of course we had our plan, but in the military, there's just saying that no plan survives its first contact with the enemy, meaning like you can have your plan, but as soon as it, hits the fan, plan just goes right out the window, and you got to kind of make it up as you go. Same thing happened when COVID hit. This was supposed to be our biggest year in business yet. When we really started the company in 2012, towards the end of 2012, but we didn't have our first race until 2013. It took all that time to, get everything from a website to staff to, course and obstacles. But anyways, year one, we only had one event, and year two, I think we had 2 events, and we've kind of been adding since then. And I think the last 2 years in a row, we did 10 events. Both years. This year, we're supposed to be 12 events. For us, is it's a good number. One event a month from January to January to December. And we got through January and we got through February, both successful. And then this hit, and now we've had to unfortunately cancel or postpone, I think 6 events now. And the future's looking brighter, but it's just hard to say because, it's almost laughable to myself now if I say I think the next event's going to be great, or if you ask me about a certain event, like, yeah, I think it's going to happen, because I've had the wind taken out of our sails so many times now, over and over. It's like, it's just the hard part for us with these events is everything on paper can look good, and we can be kind of promised up and down that these events are going to be happening. I'll use case in point, just our last event that we had to cancel, or we actually postponed it till 2021, but it was our Virginia Beach race. And my race director, also a SEAL, he lives in Virginia Beach. That's where I was in the SEAL teams in Virginia Beach. So it's kind of like a hometown for us. But anyways, he's down there. He's getting all of the information from the city, permits, local government, and everything's looking great. And the venue is actually a city-owned venue in Virginia Beach that we use. So that was even better, because they're on the up and up of everything going on. And we're checking in with the venue, and they said, yeah, there should be 0 problems, because everything looks good. As far as the governor goes, we think that, you'll be able to do events, or you'll be able to do your event by the time it comes along. And then we even talked with the permitting office, and they said, yeah, shouldn't be a problem. We got to kind of run it up the chain, but there's no issues. So at that point, we were maybe 2 weeks out or 2 months out from the event, and we felt very comfortable kind of going forward with it as far as promoting it and telling people it's on and everything. And then lo and behold, 2 weeks later, they just kind of called us out of the blue, completely out of the blue, and no preparation. They just said, your permit is going to be denied, because we went back through the governor's orders, and he's not approving of this exact event or these exact events at this time. It's like so frustrating.
So what, I mean, it was an outside event. You don't have to be within 6 feet of anybody. So do you know the specific guideline that said you can't have this happen?
Yeah, the specific thing they noted in the denial of our permit was touch points. So obstacle courses have too many touch points. So they won't blanket and say like all events are canceled. And I talked to people on the phone because I was frustrated with it. And they said that, had you been just kind of a general 5K, or it doesn't even matter the distance, but just a run, then they could work with us more as far as setting standards of wave sizes, event areas, very, very spread out, and that kind of thing. So people are not touching each other or any of the things for that matter. But because an obstacle course, they have so many different touch points that it's essentially impossible to, guarantee that everything's going to be sanitized between each person going through and touching. So that's what they claimed was kind of the no-go criteria for them. So our next race is in Massachusetts in September, and we're hoping / getting guidance that it's just like, every month we get a little further ahead in COVID, and every month things, I'm sure someone is going to argue this, but things are generally looking better every month as we go. And I know the argument people are going to say that, in some states they're backtracking. I get it, but got to stay hopeful too. And with here being in Massachusetts, things are, have not backtracked, and things have gone great. So a race that's 2 months away from now, for more than 2 months away from right now, I just feel like we're going to be in phase 4 by then. For phase 4 in Massachusetts, at least, it's supposed to be full back to normal. And in phase 4 for Massachusetts, everything is open. There's just the general, the same things are going to apply as like in phase 4, everything is open, nothing's closed anymore, but there's still going to be masks required, like when you're in restaurants or, in tighter settings and that kind of stuff. So anyways, point of the matter is, as long as we're in phase 4, by the time our race comes mid-September, why wouldn't you believe the race is going to happen?
Right. You got to stay positive, like you said.
Yeah.
What about, have you heard anything about the next season? You got New Jersey, then Charlotte, then Talladega. Talladega's down in my world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could probably speak to that. At least as of right now, the Talladega race is supposedly on.
Yeah.
So which kind of blows my mind a little bit that they're going to pack out that stadium and have 200,000 people there. But
I'll be there.
yeah, I mean, they say it's happening. My dad has he's a season ticket holder, so he goes twice a year, and yeah, they called him up and he said, "Yeah, I want them." So they're going.
Good.
So
Well,
all right.
didn't they do one in the spring that had like 2% capacity for spectators or something like that? Or no spectators?
I don't think spectators were allowed. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they allowed anybody then.
It was another. I could be completely thinking of another race, but I thought that one of the races I saw, because they've all been no spectator for a long time, but I thought one of the races, maybe it was like Bristol or something like that, they were allowing like 2% capacity, so there was like less than 500 people in the stands, and they're all spread out and everything.
Now that I could see, but just the full on. Anyways, we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
if anywhere it does it, it'll be
phase
Talladega.
4. If all these states are in phase 4, that's when I would guess that we'd be good for races. You know what I mean? So Massachusetts, I think we were like top 5 as far as hardest hit by COVID type thing. So they were very strict up here, which I get. But if to say that Massachusetts is going to be in phase 4 in September, then why would I believe that North Carolina or Alabama or even New Jersey for that matter wouldn't be in phase 4 by October, November, or December? So our New Jersey race is in October. So, we feel good about that too. Just the more time we have, the better chance of, these phases going into effect and everything being safe and whatnot. And then beyond that, just our North Carolina race is in November, and then Talladega's in December. So if it comes back around, we're gonna have to address it as it comes. But it pigeonholes us, because if we say, hey, we're just gonna cancel all races for the year, we have no hope that anything's going to happen, and we'll just see you next year, then what happens? Or what if everything's in every state in the country that we're doing races are in phase 4, and we could have personally done the races. So we're trying to keep our racers completely up to the minute on everything that we know, and at the same time just being hopeful. And I think 99% of people get it out there, as far as they understand what's going on. They understand that we are a military-owned company type thing. We have no idea of trying to screw over any of our racers type thing, but at the same time, it's like situation is changing constantly. It's fluid. We're not going to, tell you one thing when we completely think another way. But if we truly believe that the race is going to happen, that's what we're going to say.
So what is the easiest way for people to stay up to date? Are they getting emails? Is it social media? Is it?
For the most part, is social media. That's the most constant. Like, we have social media posts that go out every single day. On top of social media posts, and that's just your standard, our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, those every single day go out. And then we do about once a week email that goes out, and that's just kind of like any changes specific to those races type thing. But that just stays standard unless we know of new information. And then anything specific to like right now, our Massachusetts race, anything changed with that, we email those racers specifically, and then we update the Facebook page that has the Facebook event page, I'd say, for that.
And then specific to the newest, or the next race, I should say, in Massachusetts, September 19th, I'm looking at like it's 80% sold. So, I mean, if people are interested, they should probably go ahead and sign up. Are you doing any, like if somebody's not comfortable anymore and they've already signed up, are you all allowing them to bump to another race or bump to next year?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're not comfortable doing a race, or a race gets canceled or postponed type thing, people have options. We don't just take their money by any means. Their first option is to transfer to any other race in 2020. And mind you, but when we, I guess canceled our first race in March, people had a lot of options for the year because we had 12 races. So I think they had, 9 other options to choose from. And now as it's getting closer in the year, it's like, well, now we're down to 4 races. So now we're offering people to transfer to 2021 races. But then we started our virtual race, and that's been very successful. And we're telling people if they want to, they can transfer to a virtual race. I get it; it's not the same thing by any means, but this day and age type thing, just if you can get something in and be safe about it type thing, some people will definitely choose that as a viable option for them.
Yeah. So before we transition, because I want to transition to the virtual race, talk a little bit about that. But before we go there, since you guys have not had a race since
February,
since COVID, you have to assume have been talking about the safety measures and what that would look like if you're able to. Do you guys have an idea, like is mask, sanitizer,
of course,
smaller heats?
We've exhausted the safety measure discussion with our company, to the max. We've talked about it in extreme length. But the problem, or not the problem with it, but the thing about the safety measures are, let's just say in March when COVID just hit, we're like, what would all the safety measures look like if we had to do a race right now? And it'd be like, a mile between everybody and everyone wearing rubber suits type thing. And just the list goes on and on and on. It'd be about a million things that would have to be done safety wise. And that's like, okay, now what does a race look like in middle of summer? And you remove a lot of the safety standards. That's like, we don't have to have one person waves. We can, there's governor's, orders now. You can go up to like 250 people, not per wave, but you see where I'm going with this. Like it just constantly changes. And now that we're looking at our first race back, not until September, you can imagine the safety standards in September are going to be, I wouldn't say different safety standards, but different things to follow as opposed to back in March. And I can tell the racers or anyone that's listening that we're going to be absolutely go to the max as everything we can do safety wise. So if a governor's saying, these are all the things you kind of have to do, we're doing all those to exactly the letter. And then anything beyond that, even if we think it's not mandatory, but we should do it, just make us feel comfortable, we're going to add those in too. So, when we get back to racing, hopefully in September, it's just going to be, what they keep saying, the new normal and whatnot. And at that point, it'll be whatever those safety measures are at that time will be applied to that race.
Okay.
And who knows? Our October race might look different than our September, and December could look completely different than September too,
Right. Just depending on what's, like you said, things have changed, right? First it was, you can't leave your house at all. Then it was, well, you got to leave your house. You should wear a mask. Now it's like, you need to wear a mask. Now you have to wear a mask, hand sanitizer, or, well, it's really a prolonged contact with somebody that has it. So it's like 15 minutes or more. So I guess as the medical industry learns more, they can help better guide the rest of us.
Exactly. And that's what we're following.
Right.
Even restaurants too, you see, like, I don't know what it's like in Alabama, but I hear it's pretty similar across the board, where restaurants here in Mass, now everything's open. So every restaurant in the state is back open if they choose to be open, let's say that. But you have to wear a mask when you walk in, but then when you sit down, you can take your mask off. But then if you're going to have to go to the bathroom, you're supposed to put it back on, which some do and some don't. But it's just like, is there going to be more guidance on this? Like, what do we legitimately have to do? And what is the safest measure to follow? And I'm kind of hoping, it just becomes more clear, because so many things are so fresh right now. Restaurants have been open for like 2 weeks in the state of Massachusetts by this one. So they're all trying to figure out as they go. But as it becomes more normal, and we go a month or 2 or 3 months of restaurants opening, like, no, this is locked in. This is how it is.
So let's talk virtual. You guys are on your 3rd virtual challenge. If I understand correctly, there's no time limit on finishing up the 3rd one, but basically there will be a 4th challenge coming out for people that choose to do that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now what's been different for people that maybe missed challenge 1 and challenge 2? What's different in challenge 3 than there was in 1 and 2?
Well, specifically what we're doing is we're changing the calisthenics between the running. So our first virtual, we called it virtual 1.0, was basically you ran or you did like a workout, say it was like 50 push-ups, and then you ran a quarter mile. And then after the quarter mile, you do say 50 sit-ups. And I'm just using general numbers type thing. And then you run a quarter mile. And if you did the sprint, you would run a total of 3 miles, and you do, I think it was like 18 different workouts or different, calisthenics type thing. When we did the challenge of that, it was 2 times through that. So 6 miles and, the 36 different workouts. And then the tier 1 was 3 times through. So for the virtual 2.0, we changed all the workouts around. So it was different things. It wasn't just like, oh, instead of starting with push-ups, now you're doing sit-ups, something like that. It was actually different things to do. But we also added different options. So we had different medals that you can go for. I think we removed the tier 1, maybe. No, that was the 3. But down the road, we stopped doing the tier 1 and added in the endurance option. And the endurance was 5 times through. So it was ridiculous. I mean, people are doing them. A lot of people are doing the endurance. But even I've done the sprint and the challenge myself with my wife and the kids in the backyard and whatnot, or down a road. I've done them multiple times, and we actually really like them. I'll be candid and say, like, when this whole first thing came out, the virtual races, I'm like, are people really gonna want to do this type thing? Would I want to do this? Obviously it's nothing compared to a physical race, but then I went out and just started the sprint to see if I liked it. I was like, I love this thing. It was absolutely challenging. You can go as hard as or as easy as you want to make it. You want to sprint through your quarter mile, you want to walk it, you want to lightly jog. You want to get back after your run and take, a minute to catch your breath before you start doing the calisthenic. You can do that. But, my wife and I are pretty competitive. So we were going up against each other and trying to beat the times. And sometimes I would do better than her on the calisthenic. And the next thing you know, she passes me on the run. I'm like, what the? Anyways, it was going great, but started doing them and we loved them. So that's when we really kind of got into it more and more. Like, what more can we do with this? How much more challenging and fun and doable can we make these things? And anyways, it's been a real success for us. We're closing in on 5,000 racers now to do the virtual challenge. And when we first started it, I mean, Bonefrog never done a virtual race before COVID hit, and we're coming up on what to do with COVID. And when we first started out, I would not have bet on ourselves that we were going to hit 100 people. And now to say that we've had so many people, and for us too, Bonefrog is predominantly down the East Coast. We're obviously out of New England, but when we started to grow, we started growing out of New England down the East Coast. And then once we had the East Coast blanketed, we started taking steps to go west. And now Bonefrog has made it as far west as Texas. But of course, we have not hit the West Coast. A lot of people are asking us to come out to the West Coast, different parts of the country that are off the East Coast. And it's just like, we can't, because we can't extend ourselves too far to not be able to put on the same quality events as we can on the East Coast. But with the virtual thing, what we started seeing right away is a ton of people from the West Coast, California, all over the US were signing up. And I think within a week to a week and a half, we had every single state and territory in the US. There had been signups from those states. We're like, oh my God, for 8 years now, we've, only been on the East Coast and as far as Texas, and then in a week and a half with virtual, we've covered the entire country. And now we're seeing signups from everywhere in the world. Tons in the Middle East, which I think that's surprising. Tons from, obviously Europe and Eastern Europe and whatnot. And those are becoming regular, meaning like the same people are signing up for our virtual 1, and they're going to our 2, and they're signing up for the 3rd one. And anyways, it's been awesome, because I don't know if we'd seen this growth without COVID. It's definitely a silver lining.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that was one of the best things as far as the fitness industry goes to come out of this is we figured out other ways to stay fit, right? To keep ourselves motivated. And then two, from a company standpoint, whether it's a gym or an obstacle race or something in between, people have found ways to continue to make a living. And then I hope moving forward to add an additional quiver to their or to their quiver, I should say. So I think that's awesome. Do you think y'all will continue to do something virtual even when you're back up and racing?
We will, because of how much success we've seen in other parts of the country, in the world, for that matter. Right now, I also keep saying like California, because I think that's West Coast, but tons of people from California are doing our race. If we shut that off, it's not like, well, we're only shutting off, so come back to our physical races, because people from California are, it's going to be harder for them to get to the East Coast for an event. Obviously, we understand that. International people, so everywhere else besides the U.S., what is travel going to look like after post-COVID, or not even post-COVID, but we could say like, oh, we're back up to physical races in September, but it could be another year, who knows longer, until people can successfully travel over here to just do a race to go back home. There's going to be 14-day quarantines, and can't come here and can't do that and can't fly into things. So anyways, that's why virtual races will continue with us for the foreseeable future.
Can you see, as a business owner, can you see, maybe I've had X amount of people sign up from the Las Vegas area, so we would go there, or the LA area, or wherever it may be. Does that kind of give you an idea of maybe if I was gonna host a race on the West Coast, this is where I would put it?
That was one of the first things we started to run away with in our minds, of like, holy cow, like, we're at like 400 people in, say, San Diego. And it makes sense, it's a military town anyways, but also a very fit town. And we've never been able to put a physical race there. It's like, we're going anywhere in California, it's going to be there, because the numbers obviously dictate that. And then when different areas started populating in the same way, like we're just seeing these, pockets of people. One thing I haven't done is marry that up with where do obstacle course races go. Like, we'll just take like Atlanta, for example. Like, pretty much every obstacle course from medium size and larger goes to Atlanta for a race. There's not, the smaller races, obviously they can't travel that far or whatnot, but every medium size does. And that's for good reason, because they have a really good, obstacle course race following there, and it's a good market. What I'm going by that is saying, if I looked at all the pockets of places everyone doing our virtual races, I wonder if those are all big, OCR markets anyways. I obviously know what the East Coast looks like for OCR markets, and some of the further west ones, like out in towards Texas, but we don't follow too much of what goes on the West Coast because we're not there yet.
So out of curiosity, aside from COVID, what has been, would you say, like the number one challenge you've had to overcome as a CEO of an obstacle course race?
It's hard to say, because there's so many different things that go straight to mind. But specifically for Bonefrog, we are a small company. I mean, we're listed, Mud Run Guide or whatnot, as a medium-sized company because of how many races we do. But we are small in the sense of, our staff and the family that we do our races with. We're very, very close. It's like family. There's nothing else like it. And when COVID, prior to COVID, we're seeing each other at least every single month, and we're staying very in contact. And now post-COVID, it's like we don't see our company staff because everyone's working remotely. And that's been, it sucks on top of COVID and how strenuous this has all been. It's like, man, had we just been a company with X amount of employees and these people are kind of a number to you, that's not what Bonefrog staff is by any means. And I think that's the first hit that really started feeling like, this sucks. I really want to see the people again. I mean, of course, you want to see your own family and everything, but how close we are as a company, that's been hard. On top of that, the racers, we have a real close connection with our racers. We have so many racers that it'd be hard to almost classify them like, they're almost like staff. Like, they're with us, help setting up. They help take down. They're at like almost every race. They do this. When they're there, they're not just like, hey, I'm here to run, good seeing you. Like, no, they want to get involved. And those, that now grows the small company size. So like, well, that's quite a bit of people now. You add them all up. And there's obviously those people. And of course, we follow them on social media, or we talk through text message, or different, social media sites type thing. But it's like, it's the personal connection that me personally, I'd say I look forward to that. That's a driving force for me to run the company, of having that connection with people and whatnot. I said a long time ago in this conversation that like sitting in a cubicle and just talk to people on phones, that would destroy me. I would hate that life. That's what COVID has turned me into: just talking to people on phones, not seeing anyone face to face.
But we got to keep in mind it's short term, right?
Yeah.
We won't be this way forever, which is a great thing. And then with that in mind, what, aside from getting back and seeing staff and seeing the racers and things, do you have anything else in mind that you say, I'm really excited about this, or maybe racers, Bonefrog racers should be really looking forward to this event or this thing, or
well, I mean, with the time down, with not going to physical races and whatnot, we've talked quite a bit with our staff, virtually, obviously, about what to do with Bonefrog, as far as like, what things can we add? What obstacles can we add? What new things can people see when they come to our events? And that's been kind of exciting, just because when you get into the rotation of also of doing the physical events for us, month after month after month, some things can start to, you might be like, we definitely got to find time to do that. But, and we said that like 6 months ago, and we're still haven't got to it because we've been so on the grind. But with this pause and everything with physical events, it's allowed more time for that. So I think future things coming down the pipe for Bonefrog are exciting, because like I said, we've had more time to think this all up, add new things. So 2021 Bonefrog is going to look, there's going to be obviously many changes to what a 2020 Bonefrog looks like. And I don't mean that COVID related. I mean that as like cool new obstacles, a lot of different things that we're like, we can start doing that kind of stuff, because we've actually had time to plan it all out.
All right, so you put the teaser out there. You get any more information on maybe the new obstacle or some aspect of that without specifics?
Not yet. I mean, we typically release our what we're doing for the following year about in the fall, and we're not there yet. And we've had a lot of I know we've gotten pretty far down the road of what we're going to do, but at the same time, I don't want to make any promises to people, and they're like, you said you're going to have X. And we're like, well, then it more, that changed, and we had a better idea, and we did this instead. So there's going to be cool stuff. So we've only done 2 races this year, so it's hard to say, because if we just told people like, hey, if you were at a 2020 Bonefrog, it's going to be different 21. And then all those people, they're like, our race happened, got canceled pre-COVID type thing, or during COVID. So that doesn't mean anything to us. Like, I get it. But more information to follow.
Okay. And we can expect that information roughly when? Like
in the fall. I mean, we're coming up, that's always our standard time of the fall, because in the fall is typically when we release our schedules. Like, here's our full schedule for next year. And when we release our schedule is also when we kind of roll out what is new for that following year. So people have time to plan and kind of just build excitement for it and whatnot. We believe that in the fall, even September type thing, we're going to be back to racing. And at that point, back to racing means like, okay, we can safely say, like, of course, 2021 is going to be no impact type thing. So we're just going to kind of follow suit. As far as everything else that's been changing around the world with COVID and whatnot, it's like, let's get back to some normality. So to say we've always done the fall, we're doing it in the fall this year.
So in the meantime, Bonefrog Virtual 3, Challenge 3.
1.0, 2.0, and 3.0.
All 3 are out and still available to sign up
Yes.
for. Okay.
Yep.
And when you do that, you get the Bonefrog medal, a Bonefrog t-shirt, and a Bonefrog decal, correct?
Correct. That's the swag, obviously.
Okay.
You get, obviously, the workout. So the way our system works is we do have a website page that kind of goes through what our, what the virtual races are. And to get to that website page, it's just best to go to the Bonefrog main website, the bonefrogchallenge.com. And then the very first thing you see is the virtual race. You click on that and it brings you to the new page for the virtual races. It talks specifically about what you can expect, the virtual race is, but it just won't give you the exact workout. So you don't know what you're doing. It wouldn't be able to like kind of muster up a plan just off the information there. You register for the race you want to do, the sprint, challenge, or endurance. They're all the same price, mind you. There's no change in price if you want to do the endurance over the sprint type thing. But obviously it does dictate what kind of shirt you're going to get and medal. And then when you register, in your confirmation email is the link to click to bring you to your actual workout. And that's on you. You can do it whenever you want. You want to sign up 3 weeks to a month early. There's nothing saying you can't do that. And then people are doing it with their friends and families. And what we have been asking people to do with ours is when you're doing it, to take some pictures or some video and then post that to our Facebook pages, our social media pages. So that's given us a really good lifeblood. Social media, as you can imagine, for an event like ours, it ebbs and flows with our events. So when we have an event, a lot of attention, and then events go away, and not as many people are following social media. Totally understandable. Well, imagine you go 8 months without a physical race. That would, you just see everything drop off. But with our virtual races, it's kept, like I said, it's been the lifeblood of keeping everyone constant and connected, and all those same people that I was talking about that feel like family to the brand, they're all doing this virtual race too. So we're seeing that. They're seeing what they're posting. So I'm a huge believer in the virtual races now. Absolutely love them. Glad we went with it, and glad they're here to stay for a while.
Awesome. And it sounds like they'll be here to stay, hopefully for good.
At least bare minimum through the end of this year. We'll just see if, we get back to full racing and we do everything. I foresee them sticking around, well into 2021, if not multiple years.
Okay. No equipment's needed. So just go sign up if that's something that you're interested in. If you're looking at in-person events, like I said, the Massachusetts is almost sold out. Everything else still got a little bit of wiggle room, but you got four possible more events. Mm-hmm. So for people out there that are still looking to go to an event, as long as you guys can, sounds like the events will be on. So go check that out as well. Anything else, Brian?
No, I mean, if you are signed up, everyone that, already has had a race, canceled, postponed, that kind of thing, they already, they're fully aware of, because we email them right after that and what their options are. But of course, I understand that there's probably a lot of people out there that are apprehensive about signing up for one of our next 4 races because, no one knows anything. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, for that matter. What I tell those people is, if you sign up for a race and for some reason, we're not going to cancel a race just for the fun of it. It's going to be COVID related, dictated by the governor that we can't host the race, legally, for those reasons. If that happens, people are going to have to be able to pick race into 2021. They're going to get their race. If we ever, just absolutely straight cancel it, like we're never coming back, there's no options, then people are going to get their money back. But we always, we've postponed other races or worked them into other races. That makes sense.
Yeah. And how much of the 2021 season is available, is already out there?
Only our Virginia Beach race, because that was just the one
that's the one
that was one we just did. We just postponed that date. Those, the earlier parts of 2021 are going to be the earliest ones to open in the fall. Maybe even as early as September, we'll start announcing those dates. But it's just re-getting with the same venues and, re-signing contracts and whatnot. And, I know that some venues out there that, canceled due to COVID type thing, they might even be like, can we give it a little bit more time to get more direction, to feel like a January or February race is doable, that we're going to be good for that. So the more time we have, the better chance of everything going smoothly.
Okay, awesome. Brian, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on and talking with us, learning a little bit more about Bonefrog. Awesome how you transitioned right out of being a Navy SEAL to set up this Navy SEAL obstacle course race. Super cool. Same thing. Seems like you almost flawlessly transitioned into the virtual race. I didn't mention earlier, but we had done an article on the virtual race right after I think the first one was announced. And actually that one article gained a ton of traction of people coming and I guess learning more about it and
Really?
going and signing up. So
Yeah.
Super cool, man.
Thank you.
But again, appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on the show and good talking with you.
Likewise. Hopefully see you at the Alabama race.
Yeah. Hey, look, if it's on, by all means, I'll plan on being there.
Good deal.
So.